In our headlines on this Friday, March 14th, here in South Korea, US President Donald Trump threatens a 200% tariff on alcohol from the European Union into the American market as the EU plans a 50% tax on imports of US-produced whiskey in retaliation to Trump's blanket 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. Meanwhile, in its monthly economic assessment, Seoul's finance ministry warns of rising downward pressure amid uncertainties on the local political front and within the global trade arena as the Trump administration raises tariffs on friends and foes alike. And US President Donald Trump refers to North Korea as a nuclear power yet again, while speaking of hopes to re-establish relations with Kim Jong-un, adding that he has a great relationship with the regime's leader. We begin with the latest twist in an escalating trade war between the US and the European Union. Now, Mr. Trump has warned of a 200% tariff on European wine, champagne and more if the EU proceeds with its 50% tariff on American whiskey in retaliation, of course, for the current US tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. Park Gun-woo has our top story.
The U.S.-led trade war is intensifying as President Donald Trump told reporters on Thursday that he would not reconsider reciprocal tariffs set to be imposed on April 2nd.
Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. Aluminum or steel or cars, we're not going to bend.
Trump also uploaded a post on social media threatening that he would soon impose a 200% tariff on alcohol products, coming out of France and other EU-represented countries, saying that would be great for U.S. wine and champagne businesses. That's in response to plans announced by the European Commission on Wednesday to retaliate with tariffs on U.S. goods worth $28 billion, including a 50% tariff on whiskey from April. This came after the U.S. started imposing a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports from Wednesday. EU Commission head Ursula von der Leyen, during a visit to South Africa, said on Thursday the EU would defend its interests, while adding that it's also open to negotiations. She also said the bloc's trade commissioner plans to speak with his U.S. counterpart on related issues over the phone on Friday. And with the trade war intensifying, trade officials from South Korea visited Washington to discuss tariff issues.
If we're taking an exam, there must be some grading criteria. We need to first understand that criteria, and based on that, we should quickly correct any mistakes and need to persuade them on the points where we can.
He added that they plan to request reciprocal measures to minimize the impact of the upcoming U.S. reciprocal tariffs. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Also here on the local front, acting President Choi has urged close cooperation among financial authorities to ensure market stability. During a meeting earlier on this Friday, Choi highlighted the possibility of volatility in light of uncertainty over external factors, including the Trump administration's tariff campaign and its broader ripple effects. That being said, he also underscored the importance of a 24-hour monitoring system to track financial and foreign exchange markets to allow for a swift and coordinated response. Meanwhile, uncertainty over domestic politics and uncertainty over U.S. tariffs continue to weigh heavily on the Korean economy. Our correspondent Yeosu Jin covers the Finance Ministry's latest economic assessment.
South Korea's economy is facing growing pressure as domestic demand remains weak and global uncertainties worsen. That's according to the latest Economic Green Book, a monthly economic assessment report released by the Finance Ministry on Friday. This also marks the fourth consecutive month that the government stated that the economy faces growing downside pressure in its report, after first including the phrase in its December Green Book after the martial law declaration.
We began using the term economic downward pressure as uncertainties grew, which can be categorized into two types currently. The first is domestic uncertainty, leading to a decline in consumer sentiment. The second is trade uncertainty from Trump's policies.
While the overall assessment was largely reminiscent of last month's, this month's report also highlighted that the growth in exports is slowing. The daily exports average came to $2.4 billion in February, a nearly 6% drop compared to the previous year.
because of the tariffs that are put by the Trump administration, as well as domestic political problems sparked by the Trump administration, we're seeing growth in U.S. slowing down, and that is affecting the global economy as well as Korean exports as well.
Recovering domestic demand also remains sluggish as consumption and investment slow. Retail sales, a key measure of consumer spending in January, fell 0.6% compared to the previous month as sales of both semi-durable goods and non-durable goods declined. As for retail sales in February, drops in sales at department stores and large supermarkets are expected to have a negative impact, while the rise in credit card transactions and increased auto sales are projected to act as positive factors. Investment also showed a sharp decline as facility investment in January plunged more than 14% on month, marking the biggest drop since October 2020 due to decreases in investments in machinery such as semiconductor manufacturing and transport equipment. To address ongoing concerns, the government plans to further strengthen support for local businesses affected by U.S. tariffs and to mitigate trade uncertainties through measures that include establishing a dedicated financial support fund. 이수진, Arirang News.
Beyond the economy and onto the political front, acting President Choi Sang-mok has vetoed a bill calling for a special probe into an obscure political broker called Myung Tae-gyun. The veto was largely expected and came on this Friday during a cabinet meeting in which Choi pointed out that Myung was already under investigation by the prosecution. Last month, the main opposition Democratic Party unilaterally passed the bill seeking to investigate allegations of election fraud involving President Yoon Suk-yeol, First Lady Kim Jong-un, and Myung Tae-gyun. Contrary to initial expectations that President Yoon Suk-yeol's fate would be decided on this Friday, it appears that the Constitutional Court is taking quite some time deliberating on his impeachment trial. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the latest.
With no verdict this week, President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial will stretch on past the 3-month mark as the Constitutional Court continues to deliberate on the leader's fate following his December 3rd martial law last year. The court typically notifies parties to the trial of the ruling date at least 2 days in advance. However, no such notification has been given yet, meaning the decision will not be announced on Friday as widely expected, but by next week at the earliest. With a hearing scheduled Tuesday for the impeachment trial of Justice Minister Park Sung-jae in the afternoon, it seems likely Yoon's verdict would come later in the week. As Saturday marks 91 days since the National Assembly passed a motion to remove President Yoon from power, Yoon's case will become the longest presidential impeachment trial in South Korea's history. Former President Park Geun-hye's impeachment ruling took 91 days after the motion was passed, while Roh Moo-hyun's took 64 days.
I'd say the longer than expected deliberation suggests internal discussions are more complex than anticipated. It seems the grounds for impeachment are clear, and it is hard to dispute the president's declaration of martial law was unconstitutional and unlawful. But the justices must determine whether the constitutional violations are severe enough to warrant removal from office. There may be justices who argue that it does not meet the threshold for an impeachable offense.
Since the trial hearings wrapped up last month, the justices have been holding almost daily deliberations to review each issue raised by both President Yoon and the National Assembly. At this stage, they are still reportedly in the process of organising their views and exchanging opinions as political and public pressure continues to grow both for and against Yoon's impeachment. Over 2.6 million petitions have been filed in support and opposition to his removal from office.
I think the court has a huge responsibility now and a huge burden. The court needs to make the reasoning and adopt a judgment based on legal reasoning. Not any other consideration should be taken, but the court should also consider the environment and the status of the society where we are staying now, and that makes the task of the court very difficult, I believe, but the court needs to seek to the basic fundamentals of law, of the constitutional law.
The Constitutional Court is also deliberating on the impeachment trial of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and is reportedly trying to decide the order in which the rulings for Han and President Yoon should be delivered. Both the National Assembly and Yoon's legal team have called for a swift ruling from the court. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has referred to North Korea as a nuclear power yet again while touting his close ties with Kim Jong-un. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil covers his latest remarks and the response from South Korea's Unification Ministry.
U.S. President Donald Trump once again expressed confidence in his leadership with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
I had a great relationship with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. If I wasn't elected, if Hillary got in, you would have had a nuclear war with North Korea.
Speaking to reporters in Washington on Thursday, Trump emphasized the importance of continuing dialogue, referring to North Korea as a nuclear power, a recognition with significant diplomatic implications. In response, a spokesperson from the South Korean Ministry of Unification reaffirmed the nation's unwavering commitment to North Korea's denuclearization.
North Korea's denuclearization remains a steadfast principle upheld by South Korea, the U.S., and the international community. Our government will continue to strengthen close cooperation with the new U.S. administration to achieve this objective.
Trump also reflected on how his diplomatic efforts, including several meetings with Kim Jong-un during his first term, contributed to the success of the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea.
The meeting caused the Olympics, which was in South Korea, to become a tremendous success. Nobody was buying tickets for the Olympics because they didn't want to be nuked. And I met, and not only did the Olympics become successful, but North Korea participated in the Olympics.
However, the first U.S.-North Korea summit took place in June 2018, 4 months after the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics concluded in February. While discussions about renewed dialogue continue, experts suggest that priorities like trade tariffs may delay progress. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And in other news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has cast doubt on his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin's latest remarks about supporting the U.S. proposed ceasefire. Our Choi explains, starting with Mr. Putin's words.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said he agreed in principle with the U.S. proposed 30-day Ukraine ceasefire plan, but further terms and details need to be worked out.
We agree with the proposals to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that this ceasefire should be such that it would lead to long-term peace and eliminate the original roots of this crisis.
On Thursday, at a news conference in Moscow, he said the idea was correct and he supported it, but he needs to discuss it with U.S. President Donald Trump, referring to him as our American partner. Putin added that Ukraine would need to accept future conditions before the ceasefire agreement could be reached. He said that a decision should be made on how to handle isolated Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region, one of the areas of contention which he claimed Russia had regained full control of. He also stated that the ceasefire must be ensured, as Ukraine might use the period to secure more troops and supplies of weapons. In response, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy claimed that Putin is tactically preparing to reject the ceasefire deal. Zelenskyy said Putin is the one who will make the situation worse.
We have all just heard very predictable and highly manipulative words from Russia in response to the idea of a ceasefire on the front. We do not set conditions that complicate things. Russia does. Putin has stolen years of peace and continues this war day by day.
He criticized Putin's response as deceptive, stating that the Russian leader was effectively refusing to accept the ceasefire proposal, but responded in this way because he was afraid to tell the U.S. that he wanted to continue the war. Putin is expected to discuss the Ukraine conflict and ceasefire with U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, in Moscow. Choi Hyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Korea's southern city of Yeosu is poised to welcome more than 7 cruise ships at its dedicated cruise terminal this year, a remarkable number, especially following the previous fallout amid the global pandemic. Our An Sung-jin was at the port.
A 78,000-ton cruise ship with more than 2,000 passengers glides into port. This cruise has come from Japan and has arrived at its first stop in South Korea, the south coast city of Yeosu. Yeosu City Hall aims to provide a glimpse of Korean culture through such traditional performances and show unique aspects of the city as it looks to brand itself as a new cruise destination. As soon as visitors finish their customs checks, they are greeted by Korean snacks, jewelry, and craft work. And for those looking to explore the city even further, a shuttle bus takes them around for free.
Every time we pulled into a port, like today here in South Korea, we were met with wonderful performances, and we found everyone to be very welcoming. We really appreciate the shuttles, and it really helps us to see and to navigate easily.
From must-visit places such as the Isunshin Plaza and its replica historical turtle ship, to the beauty of Odongdo Island or the ocean cable car, the city has plenty for tourists to see and do. After the excitement of Yeosu City, these passengers will head to their next stop in Korea.
Well, we're pretty old hats at this, so we've been doing it this is probably our 12th cruise. Oh, just enjoying this area, right? We really don't know much about, was it Yeosu? Yeosu? Yeah, I don't really know much about that, but we're looking forward to Jeju tomorrow.
To accommodate all the tourists, the city provides administrative support, including temporary currency exchange and tourism information centers, as well as interpreters and tour guides.
With more cruise visitors, whether it's shopping or dining, the local economy of Yeosu is becoming more active. I think this will be an opportunity to improve its brand image and further promote itself, which is why we are putting a lot of attention and support into these MICE and cruise businesses.
The city is expecting to welcome another 6 cruises this year, carrying a total of 10,000 tourists as it looks to put itself on the map as a cruise destination. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Yeosu.
On the cultural front, an independence fighter's dedication to ensuring Korea's freedom from Japanese colonial rule is brought to light on stage through the art of dance. Our correspondent Song Yu-jin shows us how.
Jumps, turns, and twirls. Sometimes movement speaks louder than words. The Korean ballet Anjungun, A Dance in Heaven, marks its 10th anniversary this year. An is best remembered for pulling the trigger that changed history, assassinating Japan's first resident general of Korea, Hirobumi Ito. Ito is known to have orchestrated the 1905 Ulsa Treaty, stripping Korea of its diplomatic sovereignty. Director and scriptwriter Yang Young-eun says An's final words before his execution became the heartbeat of this production.
His words, "When I hear the sound of Korea's independence ringing from heaven, I will dance with joy," I realized he must have danced in moments of happiness. That's when I thought, why not tell his story through ballet, one of the purest forms of art?
The ballet traces An's life from his marriage to its beloved wife Kim Aryo at 15 to his final moments at 31. Ballerinos Yoon Jeon-il and Lee Dong-tak play An, which they call an incredible honor.
I've read books, watched documentaries, and studied historical records, but I tried to embody his sacrifices and convictions. I kept asking myself, why did he make those choices? What must it have felt like to give up everything for a greater cause?
I wanted to ensure that An's story in our production flowed seamlessly from the battles he fought, the sorrow of losing his fellow soldiers, his resilience, and how he ultimately carried out his mission.
An's love, agony, and unwavering determination are expressed entirely through motion. This is where the ballet took a bold turn, breaking tradition with creative choices, most notably a rare male corps de ballet sequence.
Typically, ballet prioritizes symmetry and uniformity, but we push beyond convention. More balanced shifts, expressive upper body movements, and dynamic movements. And our choreographer's Ba De-du beautifully conveys Han, Korea's deep sorrow and resilience.
A story once confined to history books now lives on through dance. Each step a heartbeat, each leap a cry for freedom. 송유진, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced a major shake-up of the country's public healthcare system by abolishing NHS England, the central body overseeing the National Health Service. On Thursday local time, Prime Minister Starmer unveiled plans to scrap NHS England and integrate its functions into the Department of Health and Social Care, aiming to streamline healthcare administration. NHS England was established in 2012 to grant the NHS operational independence and has 15,000 staff. While the restructuring aims to eliminate bureaucratic repetition and redirect resources to frontline services, the announcement was met with mixed reactions, with the British Medical Association endorsing the move, hoping that it will improve staff retention and patients' outcomes, and the UK's largest healthcare union, Unison, voiced concerns over potential job losses. The European Union and South Africa convened their first bilateral summit in 7 years on Thursday to strengthen economic and strategic ties. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa met with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in Cape Town for the 8th EU-South Africa Summit, where the EU announced a substantial investment package to support South Africa's development initiatives. They included a commitment to an investment package worth $5.1 billion to be allocated to key sectors such as energy and healthcare. The summit also addressed the broader geopolitical context, particularly the escalating trade tensions with the U.S., including President Donald Trump's recent decision to impose a 200% tariff on European alcohol. In Italy, a magnitude 4.4 earthquake struck a region near Naples in the early hours of Thursday local time, with at least 11 people treated for minor injuries. The quake's epicenter was near the coastal town of Pozzuoli, west of Naples, occurring around 1:25 a.m. The earthquake caused minor structural damage, including cracks in buildings and the collapse of facades. This was the strongest tremor in the area in 40 years. Authorities are continuing to monitor the situation closely. An American influencer in Australia is receiving scrutiny after she posted a video of herself removing a baby wombat from its mother, causing public outrage and prompting Australian authorities to review her visa status. The video, now deleted from her social media, shows Sam Jones picking up the baby wombat at night while its distressed mother chases after her. Wildlife experts criticize the act as potentially harmful and illegal under the Environment Protection and Diversity Conservation Act. Australia's Home Affairs Department is reviewing the conditions of Jones' visa to determine if immigration laws were breached. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
A day before the weekend, clear skies appeared across the country. With clean easterly winds, all the yellow dust that covered the skies yesterday was blown away overnight. The air will stay clear for the time being. The daytime temperature in Seoul rose up to 18 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature this year so far. It will continue to be warm tomorrow, but there is rain forecast mainly on the south coast and Jeju Island. On Sunday, the weather will change rapidly as cold air comes down from the north. As the cold is expected to make a return, Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces will have heavy snow, which will then spread to the rest of the country. Tomorrow morning will be as warm as 7 degrees in Seoul, Gwangju, and Daegu. Highs will move up to 12 to 16 degrees across the country. Temperatures will fall below zero in Seoul next week. Please take care of your health with a sudden change in temperatures. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, and today we address the latest on the country's political front as we await the court's ruling on the president's impeachment. Do stay with us. Thank you for now.